Hello everybody and welcome back to the garage. Today we're going to be doing a quick fix on this glacier colored Game Boy Advance. I've had the system for quite a few years now. It works great. It has a little bit of scratching on the front plastic screen cover, but other than that it's in very nice shape. It doesn't look like it's been used too much at all, and it turns on and plays Game Boy games just fine. But fairly recently, this system developed a problem that prevents it from playing Game Boy Advance games properly. And I'm going to show you what that is. It's actually easier to show you the problem if I play a Game Boy Color game, in this case Wario Land 2. So we'll go ahead and put that in, and we'll start it up. We can see it starts the game just fine. Now, obviously the Game Boy Advance has backward compatibility with the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. And one of the features that Nintendo added to the Game Boy Advance was the ability to stretch out the Game Boy Color game to fill the whole screen. And you would go in between those modes, between either 1-to-1 scale, which is what it's in right now, or stretched. And you would do that with the L and R button. But if I push the L button to go into stretched mode, it doesn't work. And obviously if I hit the R button, nothing happens as well because we're already in the non-scaled mode. So the problem with this Game Boy is the L button doesn't work. So let's go ahead and take the system apart and take a look at the L button. The Game Boy Advance, in my opinion, is one of the easiest Nintendo handhelds to take apart, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So the first thing we want to do is remove the battery cover and take out the batteries. And then after that, there will be 6 tri-wing screws here and a single Phillips head screw on the bottom side of where the batteries go. So we just have to take those out. And then after that, the back of the console just lifts right off. So now we can see the motherboard, the screen, and some other components around the outside. So at this point, a lot of things can actually just be pulled away as well, like the little side pieces can just be pulled out. The L and R buttons can be pulled out. And you kind of want to make sure that you pull up a little bit, but then come out like this because there's a little metal contact right there. But those just pull out like so. And you can also take the power switch out, just lifts straight out. So to get to the L and R button, we have to take the motherboard out as well. And that is very easy. First thing you have to do is remove the screen cable, which is connected right here. And to do that, you'll want to push up on the side gray parts of the connector there. They push up just a little bit, like that. And then you can take the cable and pull it out until it comes out of its connector. And then we can remove 2 more Phillips head screws right there, and then the motherboard will come free, just like that. And at this point, you will be able to also take the membranes and the buttons out if you want to clean them. To take the screen out, the screen has adhesive around all 4 edges, and you can take that out by kind of flexing the Game Boy top cover piece here, just kind of flex it, and then that'll help to loosen the adhesive, and then you'll eventually be able to get the screen out. I don't need to take the screen out for this repair, so I'm going to leave it in. So if we turn the motherboard around, you can see there's the speaker right there, and then the main system CPU. Here are the button contacts for the D-pad, the start and select, and the A and B buttons. Make sure that when you are cleaning your membranes and just cleaning the whole system, that you take some alcohol and clean these as well, just so the membranes get good contact when they hit those metal points. And if you're noticing that when you're playing the system that some buttons won't respond unless you press really hard, that typically means these contacts and the black contacts on the membrane, these black parts right here, need to be cleaned with some isopropyl alcohol. So if you notice that on any of the buttons on the system, just give it a little cleaning. They should return right back to normal. So right here are the 2 buttons for L and R, and they are soldered on the other side right here. Now, depending on your Game Boy Advance model, it might either be a 2-pin or a 4-pin variant of the buttons. This is the 4-pin variant. As you can see, there are 4 pins coming out of each button. So what we're going to do is desolder the L button because it's not working, and I have tried taking apart the button and spraying some contact cleaner in it, and that did not work. So the only choice I have left now is to replace the button with a new one. So let's go ahead and desolder this button. So while the desoldering gun heats up, this is the new button right here. And if you want to actually test one of these buttons before putting it inside your system, what you can do is take a multimeter and put each lead of the meter on the 2 center pins of the button. And when you put your meter into continuity mode, when the button is held down, you should get continuity beeps or readings out of your meter when you push the button. So that is a way you can actually test the button. I did that and I confirmed that this button does work. And so that's the one I'll be installing in this system. And there we go. There is the old button right there. We can put that aside. Okay, I'm gonna have to improvise this one because I just realized that the button I ordered is not exactly the same. So if you take a look at the old one, you can see with the button side facing up, the 2 center pins are on top and the 2 side pins are below them on the side. If I put the new button next to it with the button side up, you see that the 2 center pins are on the bottom side of the button. So the button would have to go in backwards. So I'm gonna have to try to figure out a way to make that fit. This button must be meant for a Game Boy Advance SP, and so that's why it looks like that. So I did test fit it by putting just the center pins in like this, and it does line up exactly how it should. Because if you look at the buttons, this is the other original Game Boy Advance button that still works. As you can see, it's almost flush with the board there. If I put in the new button like that, with the 2 outer pins on the outside like this, it lines up pretty well. And so what I think I'm gonna do is just solder a wire from those pins to the actual holes there, and that should work just fine. And another thing that I did notice is that the actual rubber part of the button on the original button is slightly taller than the one on here. That's actually really easy to swap out. Like that. So there's the actual rubber part, and then there's the inside of the button itself. So what I can do is take the old button, this is the old one that I just pulled out, remove its little rubber piece, like that, and put that inside the new one so that it will have the same feel. Yeah, there we go, I got it. And so that is the original Game Boy Advance rubber in the new button. Still nice and clicky, and so now it will feel exactly like the original button. So I'm going to mount the button like this, the 2 center pins in where they actually belong, and the 2 outer pins on the outside, kind of right here. And I'm just going to run a wire from those to the holes. So I'll put some solder in the bigger holes to get started. But before I solder the wires into place, I'm going to go ahead and solder the 2 center pins here so the button can actually stay in there and not fall out. Just like that. And there we go. And just to show you a little close-up of what I did, I soldered a wire, I don't even know if the camera can see that, tiny little wire from here to the side pin there. Let's see if I can get a clear shot. There you go, now you can see it. Real thin wire. It's almost like soldering human hairs. And then the other one is right there. Let's see if I can show that one. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Well, now you can't. So that's what I did, and that should be a working button now. Let's go ahead and put this motherboard back into the shell, and we'll see if it works. The new button fits in there, even though it's a modification, so that's great. Go ahead and turn it on. We're in Game Boy Color mode. Let's see, if I push the L button, does it switch into stretched mode? It does. So Now we have both shoulder buttons working as they should. That's great. And so now that means if you're playing a Game Boy Advance games where you actually have to use the shoulder buttons for stuff, now you can. So this Game Boy Advance is now fixed. And so that was a quick fix on the Nintendo Game Boy Advance. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.